Hello, it's Chris Hynes from Wealthi. I hope you're doing well today. And I just wanted to run through a quick breakdown talking about the west of Brisbane today. And it's an area that's seen a lot of transformation over the past 15 to 20 years or so. Springfield Lakes and Springfield City itself is, you'd say, a new city, and it's a place that they've got very, very high ambitions for where they want to take the city. We're seeing a lot of growth in that market as well. Really that pocket between, you could say, your West Brisbane suburbs out towards Ipswich. So we're looking at this pocket here essentially where Richlands is, Forest Lake, Rockley, Oxley, Redbank, and out towards Ripley, Springfield as well. So today's video, I'll run through an example of the growth that Springfield has experienced over the past, you could say, past 15 years. It is a new city, as I mentioned. They've started development on the land itself about 25 years or 28 years ago now, and it's really transformed that western pocket out of Brisbane. So we'll run through the opportunity that is presented in this area today. If you've got any questions come the end of it, please feel free to reach out to myself or the team, or more than happy to have a chat with each and every one of you. But hopefully you get some value out of today's video. So to get started with, we'll run through the area itself and to familiarize yourself with where we are in Brisbane, and then we can run through the opportunities and developments and population growth and vacancy rates as well. So to start off with, in terms of connectivity into Brisbane, there is a train line that runs out from Brisbane City Centre, from Roma Street. It also actually connects up to the Sunshine Coast and goes all the way up to Nambour. But this train line runs down through Yeronga, through Yeronpilly, and then out through your Tennyson, your Corinda, Oxley, Darra, and then the whole way out to Springfield. So you can get from Springfield into Brisbane CBD in about 35 minutes, about 35, 38 minutes, depending on the train that you're on and the time that you're getting on that train. But connectivity is extremely good out there. It's a brand new train line that has been put in place to accommodate the residents of Springfield itself and the growing population that we've seen in that western pocket of Brisbane over the past 10 to 15 years. So it's undergoing a lot of transformation at the moment. In terms of this pocket here, so your Darras, your Oxley, Corinda, Richlands, Durack, Acacia Ridge, and the likes, this pocket of Brisbane itself is quite an industrial location. There's a lot of you could say logistical hub for Brisbane, a lot of larger format warehouses, larger format retailers, and this pocket itself is, you'd say, quite a industrious area, and it services a lot of employment for people living in this pocket between, you'd say, the outer rings of Brisbane out towards Ipswich. Connectivity is fantastic. You've got the Ipswich Motorway, which is a very efficient motorway in the sense that it's recently been redeveloped as well. So it's now got more lanes in it. There's not as much traffic that runs along this motorway that connects you into Brisbane itself. It's quite a direct road, and it's very efficient to get into Brisbane itself. So that's another bonus, most definitely. In terms of this area here, so you've got Wacol and Goodna, and Gales and the likes. There is a large amount of shopping centres and shopping precincts out here. In terms of connectivity to the northwest of Brisbane, you've got access to the Moggle Ferry, which goes across from here. So Moggle Ferry will connect you from Riverview Station or around that Riverview area, and you can get straight across into Moggle. And then from Moggle, you can connect yourself through the northwestern region of Brisbane. There is a DFO on that side of town as well. In fact, I will show you where that is now. So up near the Lone Tree Sanctuary Park, there is a DFO in this region as well. You've also got a Westfield and Indooroopilly, but that's beginning to head further inland or further central into Brisbane itself. So that's a bit of an overview of, this western pocket. Now, looking more west, out towards your Springfields and your Ripleys. Ripley sits a little bit further down towards just on the outskirts of Ipswich itself. And this is a pocket that is undergoing a substantial amount of regeneration at the moment. 29 years ago, when nothing was out here, the owner of Springfield saw an opportunity to buy a massive parcel of land and create a master plan project. Now, this master plan project at Springfield itself is now the world's biggest master plan project to be constructed. It's also the biggest master plan community itself. So there's a lot of opportunity in what Springfield is trying to do. And Mr. Sinabathi, who is the owner of the land at Springfield, has some great vision. He has a great team on board. They're beginning to attract international businesses and brands to the area. They're also the first new city in Australia to be established after your Canberra. So that's another point worth noting as well. In regards to Springfield, and we'll run through some information now about it. So at present, it's home to around 43,000 people that live in the area. That stat was taken in 2020. And obviously, we've seen a lot of interstate migration up to the north, to Queensland, southeast Queensland itself. And that number, I'm sure, when the latest statistics come out, I'm sure will be slightly higher than that 43,000 people. But that's some exceptional growth that we've seen in the 15 or so years since the development has really begun to take place. And now in terms of their projected growth, they're aiming for a total occupancy within Springfield itself at the moment of around 143,000 people. That vision and that growth is expected to take part up until 2030. So they're growing at an extremely fast rate. I'll show you some of the population figures in a second, but they've been growing at between 5 to 10% year on year. And there's continual influx of new families and new people moving to Springfield because they see the opportunity that it presents. Another point worth pointing out about Springfield is the fact that they are very large on making it somewhere where you can live and work. It's, you could say, kind of in their the way in which they've built the city. So they're beginning to attract larger businesses to the area now, and their aim is to be able to provide 1 in 3 people that live in Springfield with a job in the area. So as you can see by this map or this illustration that's behind me, you've got some very large businesses moving down there. You've got Mater Healthcare, and they've taken a large parcel of space within the healthcare city of Springfield itself. You've got retirement living through Avio as well. General Electric were the first corporate business to take some space in Springfield, and they've got a massive office down there, and they're beginning to expand on these corporates that are moving in as well. Mirvac have designed and developed the retail component of Springfield, so they've completed on that, or they completed on that about 10 years ago, 10 years ago. And you've got a mix of your large format retail, but you've also got your shops and your cafes, your little boutiques as well. And it's really activated the precinct itself. It's a very interesting community and city to watch evolve, because we're really watching it grow from the ground up and seeing the extremely high rate of growth that Springfield has experienced. It's something that's definitely of interest to us. If we're looking at this western pocket, we see there's a desire for people to wanting to live in these new build properties, and in that region of Brisbane, considering the amount of employment opportunities. Maybe they might be back, or some of those opportunities are more so back on the logistical hubs, or the edge, the outer skirts of Brisbane itself, where we see a lot of logistical employment in your Darra, your Rockley. You've also got the Brisbane markets in that region. So they are a big driver. The other point worth noting out in terms of employment, and we'll go back to Springfield in a second, but you've also got the RAF base, which is extremely close to Springfield itself. In fact, I'll show you on this map quickly so you have a good idea. Is in a place called Amberley. So Amberley is located here, RAF Amberley base, as you can see where my mouse is now. So this is the largest Australian Air Force base in the country. It employs about 5,000 people, or there are about 5,000 people employed through the RAF at Amberley, of the base itself. As you can see here, it's located 40 kilometres to the southwest of Brisbane on the outskirts of Ipswich. It's largest base in Australia, or the Air Force's largest base, and employs over 5,000 people. And there's a little bit about the operations that take their place there as well. So that's another massive driver for employment in this region of Brisbane itself, or you could say Ipswich and your Brisbane, and there's a lot of opportunity in that sense as well. So if you're working in the defence, you're working for the RAF itself, that's another region and another reason to consider this pocket of Brisbane. Now, going back to this map here, so far of the works that's been completed thus far, there's been a total development value of $18 billion of works completed in Springfield itself. Now, there's a massive pipeline still in talks and still in works. It has all been of the works that have been approved thus far. There's an additional 2.6 million square meters of gross floor area that will be developed in Springfield itself. So it's a massive project. It's something that we're going to continue to see a substantial amount of investment in. I think as the city develops more and more over the next 10, 15 years, which I'm sure it will, we're going to continue to see more and more businesses move out there because it makes sense from a business standpoint as well. Just some other businesses worth pointing out, or other organizations worth pointing out. You now have a University of Southern Queensland campus within Springfield as well. You've got the Brisbane Lions, who are developing their training centre, their training facility. In fact, I'll show you the mock-up or the photos and the drawings. So this is what it will look like. In Springfield, it's going to be a massive driver once again for people wanting to live in the area. I can imagine there'll be a few Brisbane Lion players that choose to move out to that region of town. Given its accessibility to the training facilities, and the Women's AFL will also be holding matches out at this facility as well. So that's another driver and another reason that people are looking out in this region at the moment as well. So that provides you with a little breakdown about what is happening in Springfield. It's something that we're definitely keeping our eye on at the moment, and we'll run through another one of the projects in a second. Now, before we move on to the next area, I just wanted to run through these fast facts very quickly. So in terms of total investment, this number has not been updated. This is a slightly older document, but that's now sitting at $18 billion year to date, in terms of overall investment into the city itself. There's 2.6 million square meters of mixed use space and residential space that has been approved that will be developed in the near future. That estimated population projection has now increased from 86,000 people to 143,000 people by 2030. In terms of proximity and people living within a 22-minute drive of Springfield CBD, there's around 560,000 people that live in the region. And then in terms of completion, $85 billion of estimated project costs on completion will be completed at Springfield itself. So as you can see, if we're $18 billion into that investment thus far, they're anticipating about $85 billion to be spent as a whole. We're not even halfway through the potential that Springfield presents, and it's definitely somewhere that we've got to keep our eye on at the moment. I think there's going to be a substantial amount of investment that we'll continue to see into Springfield, and I think that'll both come from the private sector and the public sector, and people will see the opportunity that Springfield really does present in that region. Now, secondly, I wanted to talk about Ripley. Now, Ripley is, I'll go back to my map very quickly and show you where it is. So Springfield, as you can see, is located down at the bottom of my screen here. So this is the Springfield Lakes area. And if we follow the Centenary Highway a little bit further down the road and then take the turn off to Ripley Road, you've got Ripley. So this pocket of land sitting between the two highways, and I'll show you now. So this is Ripley itself, and this is where there's once again another master planned project in the area that we're seeing the beginning of construction at the moment, and this is somewhere that also presents a massive opportunity for investors. Now, Ripley is somewhat similar to Springfield. It's definitely not at the scale that Springfield are looking at growing, but it is still a master planned project, and we're going to see a substantial amount of investment into Ripley itself. They have started construction, and I know they've completed on a couple of the retail components and some of the housing lots as well, but we're going to continue to see mixed use development, retail, commercial components added to the Ripley plan, and I'll show you some of the illustrations thus far. So this is Ripley itself. This is what their vision is, and it's going to be mixed use, commercial, retail, activating the mixed use space and making it somewhere that people want to live and where they can work, accessibility to work as well. You've got a train station which is also being proposed. It will also be an underground train station, and this is something that we're also keeping a very close eye on at the moment. We see an opportunity in Ripley itself. In fact, here's the master plan build-up plate. So in May 2018, 9,000 square meters of retail and homes to Coles, a medical centre, Anytime Fitness, and approximately 20 specialist shops was completed back then. So they've activating the retail or some of the retail components first, and then they will begin a lot more of the residential components of the development itself. So I'll show you the vision very quickly as well. Now, this is their vision, and apologies for the photos not loading. I'm sure they will pop up at some point. But as you can see, one of Australia's fastest growing regions or areas, located in the heart of one of Australia's fastest growing areas, Ripley Town Centre, will offer an unmatched level of convenience and seamless access to healthcare, education, retail, commercial, recreational and community facilities. Be a wide array of green spaces as well, lush tree-lined streets, laneways, cycle-friendly paths and inviting pedestrian walkways. In terms of investment in the region, and there's a little breakdown here. So estimated $1.5 billion total project value or development value, proposed transport link, linking the region via train and bus, 31 hectares of available land, approximately 1 million square meters of gross floor area on completion, creation of approximately 20,000 jobs, 2,000 residential apartments, 2 hectares of public and cultural space within the Ripley Town Centre, outdoor and indoor sporting facilities, 40 hectares of parkland, regional healthcare and community facilities as well. So you can see that there's a lot of employment drivers in this region at the moment, whether you're working construction and you're going to be a part of, let's say, the Ripley Town Centre project and the development project itself, or you might be a part of the Springfield project and the development that Springfield is experiencing at the moment and how they're growing at the moment. But either or, it's another employment driver for the region on top of your RAFs. You've also got Ipswich, a very short drive away. You can get to Brisbane in 35-ish minutes on the train, and it's a very affordable train as well. It costs you about costs about $3 to $4 to get into the city, so it makes it an affordable option in getting in or connecting yourself to the CBD itself. But that's definitely somewhere that we are keeping an eye on at the moment. Now, I did briefly mention the train. So you've got a 38-minute train from Springfield Station all the way to Central Station in Brisbane. That's I feel quite a commutable distance, given that we've changed the way in which we've worked quite heavily, and the need to be in the office. You have the need to be in the office is slightly reduced. Now you have the opportunity to remote work. But I think another massive bonus about Springfield is the sense that they want people to have be able to live and work in Springfield itself, which I think is really going to help the economy move. People move there for a reason, because they can work 5 minutes down the road at let's say the General Electric, for example, or maybe you're a nurse and you can work at the Mater Hospital that's going to be down there, or you work in aged care and you can go work at the retirement living AVO complex itself. So you've got different options, and there's a lot of activity that is going to be happening in this region of Brisbane, I feel, over the next 10 years as well. Now, lastly, I just wanted to show you some of the population statistics on how it has grown. And I understand it's a new city, so of course we saw some very, very strong growth off the bat. I guess you could say the first year, or after the first year, there was an increase of 35% in growth in terms of population growth. And it's really been quite, you could say quite consistent in very high numbers of growth. You have to remember that Australian average for growth is about 1.9% in terms of population. And this is really attracting 9 to 10% year on year, especially over the last 10 or so years, and that is a figure that is continuing to increase. As I mentioned, they're aiming for 143,000 people by 2030, currently sits at 43,000 people, and I think if they're increasing by about 10% a year, or 10% or more, I think we will hit that 143,000 number. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing the updated numbers, given the way in which we saw a lot of interstate migration into Queensland over the past few months, given everything that was going on with lockdown and COVID. And I'm sure that figure now would sit substantially higher than what has last been projected on the Springfield website. Now, lastly, in terms of your vacancy rate, you're looking at a 2.61% vacancy rate for the area. So it's sitting relatively low in the grand scheme of things, and still a fantastic option if you're looking at investment properties at the moment. So I think that is everything. If I've missed anything and you want me to go over any of the information that I've relayed in this message today, please feel free to reach out to myself. More than happy to have a chat with you about this area. There's a lot of opportunity, I feel, in the Springfield and Ripley area itself, and we're seeing a lot of development happening. A lot more development is going to take place, and I'm sure there's many of you listening out there that feel maybe you've missed the boat with the opportunity that Springfield presents, but I don't think that's the case. I think there's still a lot of growth to be experienced in Springfield. As I mentioned, we're set to see about $85 billion worth of investment in Springfield itself. We're only at $18 billion so far, so we've still got a lot more money that will be thrown into the region. We're going to see a lot more development. That pocket of land, a lot of this green space that you can see on my screen now, is going to be built out into residential dwellings as well. So there's a lot more growth to come for Springfield, and one to keep on the radar if you're considering opportunities in Brisbane at the moment. I wouldn't rule out Springfield if you are looking at opportunities in the region, but more than happy to have a chat with anyone that wants to have a bit more of a discussion about the area. So I hope you've got some value out of this video today. If you've got any questions, please feel free to flick me a message, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Have a fantastic week. Thank you.